Hello, Stuart here with ISO 27001 Annex A 8.22 Segregation of Networks. Did you miss me? Right, so we're back. We're still working through these controls. In this one, I'm going to give you a little bit of a deep dive into segregation of networks. I'm going to talk about what it is, then I'm going to show you how to implement it so you can guarantee your success when it comes to ISO 27001 certification. Yes, I am the ISO 27001 Ninja, author of the ISO 27001 Toolkit, now with Premium Assist, where we're working with you one-to-one and checking your work to guarantee your certification success. So let's have a little bit of a look. Segregation of networks. What are we talking about here? We're talking about separating out people. We're talking about separating out services into logical groups, into logical networks, be they physical or be they virtual. Now we're imagining a scenario, right? You could have a scenario where a phishing email sent to an intern opens the phishing email and malware now propagates into your environment. In a flat environment, we're going to have this massive blast radius. We're going to have a 0-day incident. We're going to have a catastrophic event that is absolutely devastating. Or we can contain that. We can contain the problem and we can reduce the risk by having this segregation of networks. It isn't for everybody. Small organizations, you're probably not going to do it, and it is going to be based on business need and business risk. But let's start off with a definition, as we always do, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into how we're going to go about satisfying the requirement. So the definition, ISO 27001, Annex A 8.22, what is it? Groups of information services, users and information systems should be segregated in the organization's network, right? That's pretty much what I just said, right? What is the purpose? The control objective, it's a preventative control, and it's to split the network into security boundaries to control traffic between them based on business need. So as with all the Annex A controls, none of them are mandatory, right? You don't have to do any of them to certify and pass the test. And the way that you implement them isn't mandatory either. So it's down to you and it's down to risk. So let's go through our implementation approach, which is best practice. Take from it what you want, leave what you don't. But this has been seen to work and get my clients through certification time and time again. We're going to start off by saying, right, I am not a network specialist, right? I'm not. It's not my profession. I understand networks, but I'm not a network specialist. So the number one recommendation is get yourself a network professional, somebody that understands network design, network implementation, and you're going to heavily rely on them, right? You're going to work with them so they understand the requirement of Annex A 8.22. They understand the requirement of segregation of network, but they're going to go about building that network topology. They're going to go about building that network architecture with that principle in mind, understanding what it is that we're trying to do for information security, and you're going to heavily rely on them. What we can do from a GRC, governance, risk and compliance perspective, is we can have a policy. Now, there is a network security policy. It's built into the ISO 27001 Toolkit, now with Premium Assist. And it gives you everything that you need, and it sets it out. So I'm going to put a little example up so you can see what that looks like, and get yourself a copy. It is a standalone document, and you can download that standalone and implement that straight away. In fact, I'll put links in the description below. I'll also put links in the description below to the blog. There's a more detailed blog that explains this, so if you prefer reading rather than watching, you can go through that blog and get a lot more detail on this and common mistakes that people go through and what an audit is going to look for, etc. So let's have a little bit of a think. We're going to go through some high-level implementation steps. We're going to look at choosing our network domains. So you're going to see me doing a little bit of reading on here, right? That's absolutely fine. So choosing our network domains, we're going to break our network down, but it isn't something that we're going to do lightly, right? So again, that network professional is going to give you that guidance. There are complexities associated with putting in network boundaries and building a complicated network environment. If you're a small organization and you don't have to do it, I probably wouldn't. Here's a good time to talk about wireless networks and a wireless network implementation. The wireless network implementation is usually the one that is a segregated network, right? You normally have a wireless network. You use it for public access. You use it for guest access. It's something that is easy to see, to gain access to, usually quite easy to hack. And in that instance, normal best practice is to segregate our wireless network from our main business network. Now, of course, there are compensating controls if you have to use wireless. I understand that. We've covered them. We've talked about things like VPNs and two-factor authentication and all of that good stuff. But the basic principle is our wireless network should be segregated. We don't want to, in an ideal environment, be running confidential data, business critical data over a wireless network if we can get away with it, with the caveats that I've just said. So we want to separate that out. And it usually has the least security controls on it, right? Because you're allowing guests and anybody to attach to it. So we're going to build our network domain using our network professional, understanding what it is if we're going to do that. And there are different ways that we can crack an egg, right? I mean, you're heavily reliant on them. What we're looking at here, though, is the network perimeters. We're looking at the network boundaries. So implementing and protecting those network boundaries and then bringing into play the additional Annex A controls that we've already covered. So we're going to apply those Annex A controls, those principles, if we're segregating the network, things like access to networks and services. So in Annex A 815, access control, 818, access rights, looking at how people access into the network. We're going to be relying back on the authentication control, Annex A 517, authentication information. We're going to be relying on authorization, right? The authorization to authenticate access to services. So we're looking at 517 again, authentication information. For authorization, we're looking at 515, access control. And then we've got some technical controls that we're going to implement. And we're going to rely heavily on 820 network security. So you're going to go back to that and you're going to look through that blog. As I've said before, right, all of these controls oftentimes either repeat themselves or repeat the same point or heavily rely upon each other. We're going to be looking at implementing monitoring and logging. So when we segregate out our networks, we've got to look at 816 monitoring activities. What is going on our network? How are we responding to that? We're going to be looking at integrating in with incident management and our incident management processes off of the back of monitoring and logging and alerting. We're going to be looking at the security features, working with our technical teams to understand what are the technical security features that we want to be enabling to help us to segregate out our virtual and physical networks. So here we've got things like firewalls, obviously, private networks, intrusion detection, network intrusion detection. So all of these things need to be considered. We're also going to be looking at really, have I said it, relying on that security professional. The requirement here is have the policy. So the policy that you get with the toolkit, or if you look at my blog on how to write it, you can write that blog yourself as well. I'll give you a link to that to show you a walkthrough of it and how you write it. Have that policy. The policy states what you do, not how you do it. Using your network professional, you're going to document what it is that you do. 27001, if you're going for certification, is heavily reliant on documentation. When the auditor comes, they're going to look to make sure you've got that documentation, that it's up to date, it has the appropriate document markup on it. And then the best and the only thing that they can do is audit you against, do you do what you say you do? So you're going to make sure that whatever it is that you say that you do, that you've done it. And when they do the show and tell, when they do the walkthrough with you, and they say, right, show me how you segregated this network. Show me how you authenticate access to that network. Show me the admins on that network. Show me the technical controls. You're going to be able to evidence that what you've documented maps to what you've done, right? That you walk the talk. So nice and easy in here. You're going to be looking clearly at doing internal audit of that. Before I go for an external audit, you have to do an internal audit of that. There's a whole process on that comes up time and time again. So there isn't anything as ever that's difficult within segregation of networks. Most people are going to say it doesn't apply. We're going to record on our statement of applicability, again, provided in the ISO 27001 template, the controls that do apply and don't apply. So if you want that template, jump on and download the toolkit. But for most people, it doesn't apply. For those that it does apply to, you're going to have a policy. Then you're going to have a technical implementation that is documented, that's based on the guidance and the advices of a network professional. You're going to show that at the audit and you're going to be absolutely golden. Nice and easy, right? So we're working our way towards the finish line. If some of you have been with me since the beginning, I've got a little bit older, right? I seem to be doing these for many years, and I appreciate there's been a little bit of a gap, so thank you for staying with me. But for now, my name is Stuart Barker. I am still the ISO 27001 Ninja, your ultimate source for everything ISO 27001. Until the next tutorial, peace out.